Live from the 66th International Festival of Creativity, Cannes Lions, I'm Jeffrey Colon, head of brand studio for Microsoft Advertising, and we're joined by Zach Pentel, head of branding strategy for Spotify. Great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, Spotify, brand that in 2011 entered the US market,
Right.
slowly, for lack of a better term, bootstrapped itself. Now a big brand, big player in the space. I mean, what are some of the things you're thinking about as, leading that brand strategy? What are some tactics and execution that you think of on a daily basis for the brand?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's been quite the journey over the course of the last, 7-8 years or so as we've started to make a more concerted effort to build the brand up in a way that's not only pushing the reality of the product you hold in your hand every day, but also the role that we endeavor to play in music culture and audio culture more broadly now. For a long time when we were so focused on music, it was a desire to sort of move the brand into a place that was beyond just the sort of functional benefits of 30 million tracks in your hand, which was how we launched in the States. But we're not the only ones who can say that now, So we needed to find ways to differentiate and pushing into music culture, pushing into our strongest suits around discovery and helping people find new music essentially and find out more about themselves in the process has been the direction that we started to push the brand in that sort of more, that direction.
And as you get into some of these new verticals, original programming through podcasting, probably some other things up your sleeve, how do you approach that from a brand perspective? Because it isn't just, okay, hey, we have music, but you have other forms of entertainment that you have to do maybe more targeted advertising. What are some things that you're thinking about there?
It's a great question. I mean, we're fortunate to have millions and millions of fans on the service who absolutely love what we do, and you don't want to mess with that. Our biggest obligation is to those who choose to use Spotify every day, either the free users or our paid subscribers too, equally. So as we move into new verticals, of course, as we move into podcasting pretty seriously, it's about maintaining that sort of level of respect and equity that we have in music, and building things on top of it, as opposed to changing what we stand for. That's not the intent by any means. It's a matter of making sure that we are well understood in our sort of what we put in your hand. There's just been a recent update to Premium that allows you to sort of see an equal view of music and podcasting, which is a pretty accurate reflection of how people tend to be listening as well. So in marketing, from a branding standpoint, it's about introducing that to people before they can actually sign up for it. It's very easy to show somebody the value of Spotify when they're holding it in their hand. It's a little bit more difficult when you need to communicate it through an advertising campaign. You just sort of show it and tell it before you can actually demonstrate it. That's the nature of product marketing in general, but for us it means that we need to sort of show what that broader benefit is to somebody that encourages them to try it out for the first time.
Now, the tagline we're seeing here at Cannes Lions, what's next? Explain a little bit more about what you're trying to how you're trying to emotionally connect with that tagline. What are you trying to drive home to basically the advertising marketing community that you're trying to embrace here?
Good question. We're always trying to communicate through our fans, and our biggest value to an advertiser is the audience that we bring, and communicating what that audience stands for and why they choose Spotify is the nature of the campaign. What's happening next in culture is going to show up first on Spotify, and we believe strongly that music is a mirror on culture more broadly, and that the way that people listen, what they listen to, and the way that they listen, the way that they build playlists, the habits and the way that they're listening to playlists that are built around moods and moments tell us so much about who they are as people and what they're going through on a daily basis. And so that communicating that back to the advertising community is our way of saying, hey, it's a really considered audience that you're able to reach through us, because we're reaching in some cases a more subconscious reality of an individual who's playing a mood playlist or a shower playlist or driving to work. There's an inherent sort of ability to connect that can be more challenging in other environments. So the idea of what's next and the iconography we're using for it around the shuffle button is just sort of built into that idea of it's hard to say what's happening, but it's going to be happening here.
So the Discover Weekly product, let's call it a product. Microsoft's was I think the first to do some ads within that Discover Weekly. Do you sit with the product team and try to figure out maybe ways that you can brand based off of some of the new offerings that you have? How much listening are you doing with your your customers? How does that inform your overall brand strategy?
Yeah, we have a great relationship with the product side, and they're ultimately creating new features that appeal to a user. It's our job to communicate them to the outside world. we have the benefit of being in this type of business where what we make are things that people love to get their hands on. So at the end of the day, our job is kind of easy because we just have to say, hey, look at this thing we made. We think you're going to love it. We love it. You're probably going to love it too. And it's that sort of humanity that we try to bring into the marketing of something like Discover Weekly. You don't have to push the proposition so much as you just want to say, we're so excited about this and we can't wait to share it with you.
And my last question to you is a fun one. Artists that you're just hitting the repeat button on quite a bit as of late.
As of late, I mean, where to start? Well, we have Baby Rexha here tonight at our house down on the beach, and I mean, I'm not the target demographic necessarily, but I absolutely love it. I guess what I was listening to this morning on the way over is a band called Krangbin, which is sort of a funk outfit.
Where are they from?
The best background music. I think they're from New York.
Oh, nice.
Their name is Thai for airplane. Krangbin, which I think literally translates to tin can fly.
I love it.
Yeah, they're great.
Zach Pentel, head of branding strategy for Spotify. Thanks for joining us on the Disruptive FM podcast.
You've been listening to Disruptive FM with Microsoft's head of brand studio, Jeffrey Colon.